Well, hello. Today we're going to be talking about Salesforce.com, its most recent results, and the acquisition of Slack. We'll talk about the earnings announcement, the sales history, stock price history, again, a close look at the income statement, and the Slack acquisition and the accounting for that purchase. All my information comes from the investor relations pages of Slack and Salesforce and the SEC website. You can pause this page if you like. Let's have a look at the announcement. Up 20%. Operating margin. Non-GAAP operating margin. Revenue guidance. We had another record quarter. No other major enterprise software companies growing at this rate. I looked back to the second quarter. I saw the same thing. Record-breaking numbers. Everything, one of the best quarters in Salesforce's history. It seems as if they love the hype. Let's see whether they deserve the hype. Well, when it comes to revenue growth, they certainly have done well here. From 2008 all the way up to the guidance for the current fiscal year, growth rate 29.28%. It is indeed quite spectacular. The stock price. This was when they were admitted to the Dow, or the announcement was made. Since then, we've sort of trended downwards a little bit, and I leave it up to you to have a look and see what happened today. Their income statement. Worth the hype or not? I like the 9 months. 9 months ended October 31st, 2020. Total revenues, 15.4 billion. This is what I don't like. Income from operations, 262 million. This number I put in myself. Income from operations as a percentage of total revenues, 1.7%. If we take it one step further, gains on strategic investments, very big. This is usually something like loss on sale of certain assets. This is a gain from tax. So we have a gain on strategic investments. We have a gain on income tax. Earnings per share, $4.11. What we can see here is that of the $4.11, only 7%, 7 cents out of every dollar, 7% was attributable to income from operations. 7% or 28 cents of the earnings. 28 cents per share was the earnings from operations. Everything else came from gains, other losses, and a gain from tax. Remember this number, shares outstanding, 926 million. Signed a definitive agreement to acquire Slack. Slack shareholders will receive $26.79 in cash and a fraction of a share of Salesforce common stock for each Slack share. Total cost, $27.7 billion. What is Slack? It's a messaging app. You can go onto the Slack Help Center and you will see that it's a very good messaging app. But financially, what do they look like? They announced their results for the quarter ended October 31st, 2020, and of course it includes the comparative or the consolidated numbers 9 months to October 31st, 2020. Total revenue, 652 million. Net loss, 210 million. After some adjustments, total loss, $218 million. Slack are making a loss, and a rather big one at that. Let's imagine that the two companies combined at the beginning of the fiscal year, February 1st, 2020. What would a combined income statement look like? Well, this is Salesforce. Total revenues, 15.4 billion. Income from operations, 262 million. Slack, 652 million. Loss, 210. If we consolidated this, we would get total revenue 16 billion, net income $52 million. $52 million of income from operations divided by $16 billion in sales. That percentage is very small. In fact, it's 0.3%. In other words, from every dollar worth of sales for the combined operation, their income is 0.3 cents. Now we have to just have a look at the cost again from this point of view of Salesforce. Remember these numbers. These are Slack's numbers. They have two classes of shares, Class A and Class B. Class B has got more votes, but it essentially has everything else is the same. Issued and outstanding, remember these numbers, 490 million, 85 million. I'm going to call these two numbers the including numbers. There, and we have four of them there. Then we have options outstanding, Class A and Class B. Then we have Class A, Class B. Now we're going to try and recreate that 27.7 million. It says cost 27.7 million. Here we go. Class A, Class B. Issued and outstanding, 490 million, 85 million. You can go back and pause again if you want to know. Salesforce stock issued. This is the fraction, and this was the closing price November 30th, and that's what it refers to. It refers to the price of November 30th. This is the cost in terms of stock. This is the cost times in terms of cash. So Salesforce stock, Salesforce cash, I get to 26.4 billion, which is not 27.7. But remember these other clauses, options and the restricted stock units and the includings. Go back again. Here are the number of options, restricted stock units, and remember the including. I can't count them twice. I'm going to subtract them out of here because they are, it said including, it was in those numbers there. 42 million shares. Again, CRM stock, 814 million. Cash, remember the 2679? There we go. Now I add and I get a subtotal of 28.4 billion. It's too high. But remember, if we go back, the options had exercise prices, so they were not free. And I'm going to subtract that out. It doesn't change it by much, and I get to 28.3 billion and not 27.7. So I'm off by 600 million. I'm not sure why. If you know why, put it in the comments, or go to my website, contact me, send me an email, and tell me where the 600 million difference might be coming from. I can speculate, but I'm interested to hear what you think as well. Let's go and look at the shares that's Salesforce are going to issue. These were the outstanding shares. These were the options and RSUs. Total Slack shares, 619 million. This was the ratio. Salesforce is going to issue 48 million shares. This was the old float for Salesforce. The float is going to increase by 5.1%. What this means is, if earnings increase by 5.1%, remember they bought a loss-making company, if earnings increase by 5.1%, the per share earnings will stay the same because the number of shares are going up by 5.1%. Remember the cash. We have cash here and we have cash here. Cash for the outstanding shares, remember it was the $26 per share. Cash payable to the holders of the options and the RSUs. Total cash 16.5 billion. Salesforce do not have 16.5 billion on hand, have about 9 billion on hand. They will need to borrow to finance this. They will issue shares, increase the float by 5.1%, and they will borrow. And those borrowings might be at a low interest rate, but it's not going to be for free. Let's have a look a bit at the accounting. This is Slack's total assets. This is in thousands, so we have 2,311 million. Now there's a bit of goodwill already here, but so just remember that. Total assets, 2,311 million. Total liabilities, 1,434 million. If I net the two off against each other, I get stockholders' equity of 855 million. Remember how much they're paying? They're paying 27.7. They're acquiring this, and of this, about 50 million is goodwill, so they're actually acquiring about $800 million of net assets. Assets minus liabilities, the net, about 800 million when I exclude the goodwill. Stockholders' equity, 800 million. They are paying 27,700 million. They are going to have to debit goodwill for $26,900 million. That will be a massive addition to the goodwill balance that they're holding. And in case you were interested, FASB, the accounting people, turn up the heat on goodwill impairment testing. What could happen is this goodwill might be impaired at a later stage if the investment does not work out as intended, and that would impact the income statement in a very negative way. Salesforce, for the 9 months ended October, 15,435 million. Income from operations, a mere 262 million. Very, very low. Not only has this happened, but they have acquired Slack, and Slack will take this income from operations, as low as it is already, down further to perhaps 50 million. They are also going to increase the float. How troubling? I leave it up to you. You can see what the stock price did today. Today is December 2nd. I have a website. That's my website. Feel free to have a look around. I have a blog, and I talk about the videos that I post, including this video, and we have some other things there that I hope you enjoy.